got limits, man. Okay, calm down.
And Said, I really want to thank you for being such a, one of the few brave voices in the press corps. You must have a thick skin, because I feel like every day they're kind of like dehumanizing your people.
Yes. And, I endured like 2 years of Matthew Miller, who, constantly would ill-treat my questions and so on, do kind of facial expressions and so on. That shows contempt, but I have to be thick-skinned. I mean, these are my people, and this is my cause, to be quite honest. I try to be as professional as I can, but how am I going to be professional when, on the day that Shirin Abu Akleh gets killed, they come up with all these junk stories. So you have to endure. Sometimes you get a bit upset, and you try not to show it. But one thing for sure, I mean, the former administration it was not friendly to the Palestinians. The one before that was not friendly. This one, certainly not. They use any possible description or accusation and so on, unfounded mostly, to levy on the Palestinians and anyone that supports them, not only the Palestinians. I have many friends who are, from different faiths that get all kinds of hate calls and hate messages and so on. It doesn't matter whether you're Jewish or Christian or Muslim, whatever. This happens all the time, and it goes unpunished because people like Chuck Schumer, he has one mission. I mean, look at Fetterman. His staff resigned because he refuses to do anything but work on Israel, And then, someone like Bill Maher comes out and says, I think that if the Democrats nominate someone like Fetterman, maybe we'll have a chance, which is total nonsense. Of course, it doesn't make any sense. So we are, but now, Katie, it's a different ballgame with these guys. I mean, the way the press functions, I mean, historically, I've been sitting in the same seat for like 20 odd years, before and after Iraq. Now they assign that to us, people who are not in the bullpen. Luckily, I am in the bullpen. They have to sign in like school kids. It's awful. And of course, we ask questions, they don't answer. Yesterday, she gave me a question, but I was not allowed to follow up. I mean, It's crazy.
It was such a non-answer that you gave, right?
And not only me, everybody.
Right,
She goes through this on any issue. And the one statement that we hear time and again, and we'll continue to hear, that the president is his own spokesman. The president speaks. We all listen. But these are horrific times. I mean, today, Catherine Russell from UNICEF said that Israel killed in one day more children than it has done in any one day for over a year. I mean, it is really horrific. What they do is horrifying. They're trying to basically force the expulsion of the Palestinians or force them to leave. And so I don't know what the plan is. But obviously, Israel is unhinged because Trump is unhinged. I mean, he's the one that spoke of depopulating Gaza, right, in the presence of Netanyahu, who apparently was surprised. And we hear this talk. They all speak from both sides of their mouth, with a forked tongue, as the natives used to say. Whether it's Witkoff, who basically changed positions all of a sudden and was threatening Hamas, much like Trump did, or basically threatening the people of Gaza. I mean, let's remember that on March 6th, Katie and Greg, and of course you follow this, Trump tweeted that death awaits the people of Gaza. He basically threatened the people of Gaza. I mean, imagine it was, any president talking about any people, anywhere in the world, you would be talking about it day in and day out. It barely caused, a little ripple in the media. So these are really very difficult times. And I think that the Palestinians now, they have a lot of friends around the world. These movements and so on, they seem to be a lot stronger and a lot more enduring than we thought. But they are being targeted. George Washington campus, for instance, they outlawed or closed, whatever you want to call it, Students for Justice in Palestine, the SJP. They closed their chapter. They're doing it in many other campuses. This is the trend, and they will continue to do it.
Yeah. Well, speaking of which, we actually have a clip of you, Said, asking a question to a Tammy Bruce, who is a State Department spokesperson. So let's take a look at this.
Pertaining to Gaza, aid has not been allowed in since the 2nd of March. The situation is very dire. I was wondering if you are really concerned about this, especially, this coincided with the beginning of Ramadan. as well, where people need food and water and so on. Is starvation used as a method to pressure people? Isn't that a war crime of some sort internationally?
Well, for the horrible suffering of the Gazan people, we know where that sits. It sits with Hamas. We know that within the ceasefire, and why we fight for the ceasefire and want it to continue is, in fact, to make sure that food and aid is moved into that region. The United States has led the way in that regard. We also know that at this point, when it comes to the nature of what Envoy Witkoff has worked on and what all of us still focus on is, in fact, what your concern is. Making sure that there's a situation on the ground that allows food to get to the people who need it, that allows aid to move through to the people who have been suffering because of the choices that Hamas has made throughout the years. And that is what we continue to work on. So everyone, certainly it's a concern. And that is why we continue to work to make sure that aid can get to the people who need it.
Wow. Okay. I mean, Craig, what are your thoughts as an expert in human rights law? How did she do in her answer?
Well, I hadn't seen that clip before, and I was reciting what she was going to say in my head before she opened her mouth. I was wondering how many words in she would get before she blamed Hamas for a declared act of collective punishment that Israel stated it was going to do. And, all kudos to Said, one of the few voices that raises international law in interventions with the State Department. Because it's so important that this be on the record. If there is going to be accountability, at least in the future, having these State Department spokespersons and officials on the record having to address questions of international law that they're not going to get from the corporate media for the most part. Really important, so important what Said does there, and others who have challenged him. We all saw those scenes of Sam Husseini and Max Blumenthal being dragged out of the briefing room because
I was there. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I know you were. People like Said and Sam and Max, they do something that the stenographers in those briefing rooms don't do, which is they pierce through this veil of propaganda that the State Department and the White House and the National Security Council are so, careful in constructing, and that these obsequious reporters from a lot of the outlets go along with, and they stay within those margins. And so, when somebody actually practices journalism, God forbid, like Said does when he's in that room, it's hugely important, because a big part of this struggle, this genocide could not continue without the support of the United States government. United States government support couldn't continue for a long time without the support of the American people. And the support of the American people cannot continue if they are aware of what's actually happening on the ground. They have gotten on side many of these big media corporations, but they don't have everyone on side. And thank God for journalists like Said and Max and Sam. Thank God for independent media like what you do, Katie, and some of the others out there, and for social media, because they are tearing down the veil of lies that are being constructed by these official agencies. So, yeah, thank you for that, Said.
Thank you.